Whether you're leading for the first time, leading through change, or learning to lead all over again, this space is for you. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk from those who've led through challenges, adapted under pressure, and thrived in the face of change. Welcome to Command to Corporate, where leadership isn't just taught, it's lived. Let's get to work. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm glad that you are able to join us once again for another episode of Command to Corporate. I am LP. He is T. How we doing today, T?
Doing fantastic. Week's been good. Chill day so far, so I can't complain. I'm ready for
Yeah.
this.
All right. Good. Good.
And you?
I'm good. I still going strong in the gym. Hit it this morning. So
Nice.
I think I crossed that 21-day mark. So it's there. I'm there. Even if I'm
In a
missing a few,
row?
not in a row because
Ah,
I'll do have my days off, but
got you.
staying with my same routine of some
Good.
sort of workout. So maximizing my garage, weekends hitting the gym. So
Hmm.
really making sure I stick to that. So it's been going really good. I can't complain on that.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, and I see you got a little bit of an upgrade there, so I'm digging that.
Trying to catch up to you, brother.
We constantly evolving, so I
That's
think that's
true.
a good thing though, because I think if
That
people
is.
look at our first episode, which was a pilot, by the way, if people are catching this one for the first time, our very first one, that wasn't even supposed to be an episode. We were just practicing, and then the conversation got so good that we're like, how can we replicate this? We got to keep it
Yeah.
some kind of way. So you see a lot of slicing and dicing with the edits and all of that, and but it came out pretty good. So here we are.
Thanks to you.
Hey,
Yes.
I appreciate it, man. And my son on that first one, he's the one that came through. He did the edits, but I then had to upgrade myself so I could hold it down a little bit too.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Well, I
All right.
appreciate both of you.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And so today our topic is what is culture? What is corporate culture?
Hmm.
What would a good corporate culture look like? And before we jump in, I'm going to read the couple definitions, keeping us honest as always. So, culture is the shared set of values, beliefs, behaviors, customs, and artifacts that characterize a group of people, community, or organization. It shapes how people think, interact, work, and live together. So now I'll jump forward to societal culture. It includes traditions, language, religion, rituals, food, clothing,
Mm.
music, art, and more passed down through the generations. And then let me jump into corporate or organizational culture. Refers to the shared values, mission, practices, and behaviors within a workplace. Includes how decisions are made, how people are rewarded, how teams collaborate, and how leadership is expressed. An example would be a company that emphasizes innovation, might encourage risk taking and fast decision making. So, um, with that, what was your, well, first of all, before we jump into any questions, what's your thoughts or any comments on that, T?
I think the big thing that you probably won't find in a definition, and when I think about culture,
Hmm.
um, I think it's to me, culture is made up of a lot of subparts. It's like different departments within the company, right? It's just like a body it has arms, legs, feet, whatever, but they all move as one. And that's when you have a good, solid culture. And with a good, strong culture, what you have is predictability. You know how the company's going to act because it's going to follow its values and principles, what it believes in. And I think that's something that was not captured in that definition and the way
Hmm.
I look at culture. So, like you said, innovation, you could be obsessed with customer service or environmental or whatever.
Yeah.
It's an identity. You could kind of predict where the company's going, how it's, and more importantly, how it invests its it's capital and human resources, because that's based on their values and principles. So that's, I think, predictability is a critical point that was not mentioned in there, and that's the way I see it.
I think that's a good point. And I think also what you mentioned, like the predictability,
Hmm.
how the organization is going to respond, but also how the leaders are going to respond. And
True.
then when you talk about the different legs of it, the culture of the overall organization, or what we hope it to be, but then the individual cultures in those departments.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that becomes even bigger piece, maybe, because it's
Mm,
like we have this overarching culture which we outwardly see, but it's on a very holistic level. But then how are our individual, so to speak, departmental cultures growing to support the larger culture? So if the
mm.
organization is predictable, if the leadership's communications are predictable, the expectations, all of that, we know what's going to happen. Is that also happening internally within an apartment?
True. I mean, I think there's some elements of those subcultures that could be a little different, and that's fine. But as
Yeah.
long as they follow the overall principle. So yeah, so I mean, you could have subcultures that may not be a mirror image of the company,
No, for
but it's
sure.
still go in the same direction. Yeah, like
Yeah, but does it complement it in some kind of way?
yes, exactly.
Yeah, because
Yes,
it can
perfect.
definitely won't be the same, but does it
Hmm.
complement it? We'll say, though we're a little bit off track and maybe looking at it from the standpoint of, I think it was the societal culture. So, like, let's say our our department is like that food culture, and another one is like the rituals
Mm,
culture, and another one's like the
yes,
clothing or music, and another one is the art. But all of it still points up to that same culture. It's just we're
yes,
taking maybe a different approach to it, but we still complement it.
yes. Good point. Yeah, I like it.
And then, so when was your first exposure? And we probably have talked about it before, to a corporate culture coming out of the military. Well, I can say for me, it was just my first civilian job,
Yeah.
because when I first got out, I did more military related work.
Ah,
And
okay.
so, as a contractor, so
Yep.
it's still, but it was just heavily military, if not all. So there wasn't really a shift. It was like the work has changed, what we're doing, but
Mm.
we were all still military mindset, still had hierarchies very similar to that. So it didn't feel, though we're now calling each other by our first names, it didn't really feel that much different.
How
But then
was
when
that, by the way? You're calling each other by the
it,
first name.
it, when you're coming into a space new, even though everyone's
Uh-huh.
military, it's
Sure.
okay. The hardest thing for me, I think, is when my previous leaders that I'm used to
Hmm.
calling Sergeant so and so, or
Hmm.
Sergeant Major so and so, or Captain so and so, they're now out in the military as well. It took years for me to stop calling them Sergeant, Sergeant Major. It was years. I'm like, I just can't. It was just, it felt so weird to do
Yeah.
that.
But
Like,
that influences culture a lot, even just dropping that title,
yeah,
where it's like in the military, you have that title and you almost have like a bit of a barrier, a professional barrier of some sort or distance. I'm not sure how to describe it, but you
mhm,
drop that title and you call the person by their first name, they're automatically a lot more approachable, relatable.
yeah, yeah,
They're a lot closer. There's
yeah,
no wall in between you because
more
like it's
personable.
sergeant. Yes.
Yeah,
And so that influences it. It's amazing how just dropping that title it makes it unique and different.
yeah, even for them to say, "Oh, just call me this," and it's like, nah, I can't do it. I'm not there yet. It's too soon."
I know. I still struggle with that sometimes,
Yeah,
like even coming to an organization and still relatively new out of the army and like do you call the C-suite by the first name or do you call say sir or ma'am? Like to me my automatic reaction is to address as sir or ma'am, but it's they're pretty cool and they're like no just call me by name by my
yeah,
first name. and it's like it's a shock. And to this day, I still like I'm a little uncomfortable calling the C-suite people by the first name. I don't know what it is,
Yeah, I
but
mean that part I got, I guess, used to over
mm,
time. Being going back to my first, you know, experience with corporate culture, I found it in that space. I was a supervisor with everyone knowing so many people, and just because people have been in the workspace so long, like years before me, and even now, you're talking 20 years, and so many people have moved around, but they've known each other. It was
oh, true.
almost like a big, huge family because
Mm,
and people connected in and out, outside of work, in work, lunch, everything. So that was, though management might have had its struggles, it's still from the employee perspective, going up to supervisor and some managers, um, it felt that way, like it was just like more of a family. So it wasn't too bad.
so do you think like the size of an organization has a lot to do with that?
But to your question, do I think it's about size? I don't know that, like, again, I don't know if it's really about size. To me, it goes back to that norms and how we want to behave, because you might have somewhere the top people are just so far removed from the people. They're,
Mm,
when they see them, unless that leader, CEO, whatever, says, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Tim." And they just said, and because of the employee is going to be like, "Hey, Mr. Perry, hey, Mr. Gazal," that's going to be automatic,
sure.
unless they kind of set the tone, and always set that tone where people just like, they're not your buddy, of course, but you just
Yeah.
know that that's the way. But I've been in places where, even though I may, because I'm in so-called a corporate space,
Hmm.
where I'm talking to them first name basis, but people that are more removed and, the maybe in satellite places, when
Mm,
those people come to their space, it's always Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so, Miss. They're never going to say their first name.
interesting. Okay. So if they don't correct you, right, they want to keep it formal. So they don't correct
Yeah.
you as in like, hey, call me Tim, for example.
Yeah.
They want to keep it formal. So that's a driver of culture. So
Yeah.
it's
And there's
to
nothing wrong
me,
with that,
right?
if that's the way you want to be. But then it also goes back to that, how you say, that wall, that barrier.
Mm,
Because as
hmm.
soon as you do say, "Well, call me this," to me, for the other person, they might take a little weight off. Or I can maybe talk to you a little bit more. I can be a little bit more open. But if you're,
Right.
especially if you say, like, you hear, like, maybe from a sweet seat member and their peers or the
Hmm.
people right below them calling their first name, and then you're lower in the totem pole and you're like, "Hey, John," and they look at you like, "What's your problem calling me John?" It's like, well, I thought that's what we were doing. Can you imagine if somebody
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, call me Mr. So and so," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and they go, "Hey,"
Oh, true.
so,
Yeah.
and then they say, "Well, hey, Larry," I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, it's Mr. Perry." They would probably be like, what are you
Yeah.
doing?" And I'm like, "Well, you just told me to call you Mr. or Mrs. So and so. Will you address me the same way?" That would then take them aback, because they would probably
True.
think, "Why do I need to do that? Well, why am I calling you this?" But now it goes back to their level. But it's like, what are we doing? Because then it becomes
Wow.
like
Yeah.
they're creating the separation.
Mm,
I'm here, you're there. I'll call you what I want. You will call me this.
yeah. Oof. That's like a bad military environment, you know?
If it, yeah, military environment, yeah, but
Hmm.
yeah, in the civilian space, that's but again, it's, if that's the way it is and people know it and that's just how they
Fair.
operate, okay, well, fine, no problem. What
Hmm. So
about you?
it's
What was
interesting.
your first exposure to a corporate culture coming out of the military?
So, I mean, coming out from the military, and it's kind of previously talked about, this
No.
organization I worked
Oh
for,
yeah, true, true, yeah.
and it's a bit of a shock. It is. more focused on, cost savings, and it's
Hmm.
more productivity and whatnot. Um, Coming from the army, obviously, it's our most valuable assets are those people,
Yeah.
So you really are mentored and taught like how to take care of people,
Yeah.
because that's the most important thing that we have. But also kind of something that really was an indicator of a different culture is that the KPIs, right? Key performance indicators for the company, it was focused on that productivity, cost savings, error rates, but and those were very much public, and emphasized. They were put up like three times a day, on a board to say, how everybody's performing. But what they lacked was kind of any kind of human KPIs,
Mm,
Are they publicizing the turnover rates? Are they
yeah.
publicizing the employee satisfaction percentages? That stuff was not public,
Yeah.
and the surveys were very skewed to, you know, how can we make you more productive? It wasn't so much like, hey, how can we make you enjoy work a little bit more?
Yeah.
So everything was skewed in one direction, and so that culture was a shock to me, just because like we've always, growing up, learned that people are the most important thing, and you kind of gear everything towards it. So you mentor people, you invest in them as far as send them to school. So that's the outward, culture indicator that we value people. We're putting the money back into people, investing in them, upskilling them. And so that was the culture of people. So yeah, that was a shock for me.
And I think just in general, for anyone going, in particular military, going into civilian world,
Hmm.
going into your first corporate space, especially if you don't initially see a lot of veterans or veteran peers, it's going to be a shock regardless. And then just for and people in general, you're when you go from one company to the next, it's just two totally different cultures. So it may be
Hmm.
culture shock, period, because
True.
you thinking like, well, we used to do it this way. I think that sometimes set people up for failure in a way because they keep comparing back to what they may have been comfortable with, may have been
Yeah.
used to because they've been there a long time. Well, the way we did it back at, well, you're not there anymore. So it's like, how do you
Yeah.
help to shape a new culture and not the culture back to what you were used to, but play in this new space and help create a new culture? And what does that look like? Because I think so many people are coming a new company but want the old. But if everyone
Yes.
thinks like that, now it's just
Yes.
tension. Now you're
Yes.
struggling and all of that stuff. And
And
so, go ahead.
you automatically become an outsider when you come into
Yeah,
a new organization. Say, in my old job, just like in the army, it's like my old unit. You
yeah,
keep talking back.
yeah,
People are like, okay, fine. If you like it so much, why'd you leave?
exactly. Yeah,
And so if you don't come in and like kind of assimilate, and then from there shift the culture a little bit, or
yeah,
modify it, or bring up some, good ideas.
yeah.
Otherwise, like, you're just an outsider. You'll stay an outsider, and it's like, oh, this guy's not a team player.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
And
so what?
even what you saying, bringing up ideas, people have to still be, you know, be kind of aware that, though you're bringing up an idea, no one has to adopt it, or that
Sure.
adoption may take some time. So throw it out
Mhm.
there, let it ride for a little bit. Maybe there's no action. If there's another
True.
opportunity, hey, maybe we could try this, and maybe you wait a little bit longer, and maybe you let it go and maybe it comes up naturally over time. But try not to get hung up on they're not doing what I said. I know the answer, it's
Mm,
going to take time for those cultures to shift and adopt anything because if everyone has that same mindset, but the leader has a certain mindset as well, it's like everything is just clashing. So you may
true.
have to ride it out for a while until things start to kind of level out. So those waters are rough, and it's like where are they smooth, where I can then say, hey, now it's okay to fish, because the boat's not rocking.
It's okay. It's okay to fish. Oh, all right. I'm taking notes.
I'm
Now it's
freestyling.
okay to
That was off the
fish.
dome. That was off the dome. This is freestyling. Everybody can
I
have
like
that
it.
one.
Cool. So, I mean, what's your experience on how the military compared to the corporate culture?
To me, it's just so different.
Yeah.
Like it's what the way that I think I've always gone to in the military units that you know you just automatically to be embraced. I've
Mm,
been fortunate enough to have really good leaders throughout my time, um, where predominantly stateside, even my time in the going to Korea, and it's just always quickly become a family environment. It's
mm,
that trust aspect was earned quite quickly. I come in there, I'm showing up, I'm engaging, I'm here to take care of you, I got your back. It's established very fast. And
mm,
now everyone's looking out for each other. And then as you start to engage with the higher ups, building those relationships coming quickly. And then it's not like we're all in this together. And even if you shift responsibilities from your section to battalion to it didn't matter. It seemed like it just because people knew of you, it was like you were valued. So
mm.
no matter where you weren't, where you went, like people knew of you, like even in a company, because you're engaging with different departments, it
Sure.
just always seemed to be a smooth and rewarding experience, where I never, for the most part, I mean, right towards the tail end of me getting out, you do have some, leaders that'll come in and you're like, oh man, this person's no good, and they're not really. But then that's where like a company commander would have the backup of the first sergeant or vice versa, and they help to shape it. And as long as they're on the same page to help shape that, then you constantly have that feeling, we're one team, and you feel it, especially when you go on field exercises, you might mix up troops. Hey, these two departments, y'all got this. So now you're creating a
Mm,
bond with them because you
true.
have a mission. So there's no us, we're going to say, okay, we're not going to be paired up with our department. You're going to be paired up with some, you're just building these bonds constantly, appreciating one another, reward, awards. Everyone's getting awarded, and and it's like arcoms, AAMs, and
Yeah.
and people can look up those types of awards, but they're just getting spread out throughout everyone. Everyone's being recognized for a good job versus I don't like you or favoritism or all this stuff where I see there's everyone thinking about the NCO creed, fair and impartial, recommending reward and punishment. There's no favorites in the military,
Mm,
at least from my exposure.
mm,
So when I come into now civilian sectors and I see where the person that chit chats in the office the most gets to become the favorite, they get promoted, they get recognition. It's like, well, I'm here to do a job. I'm not here to chit chat with you. So why would you not, like in the military? I see your performance reviews. You're recognized for the work you do. Whereas in the civilian sector, you're not necessarily always recognized for the work you do, but who you know and your chit chat and buddy and convo.
See,
It's
but
like that doesn't matter.
that's a valid topic though. Maybe that's a topic for another day. And now I'm reflecting on what you're saying, like deeper. There is office politics, and I think yeah, that is a separate topic of its own.
And I just
Be-
wrote it down too
Yes.
because well, and people listening and be like, hey, make note of the time at this point that we're saying this because I mean that I think that's probably the biggest
Yeah.
thing is I did not notice military politics.
No.
Never even heard of that. But
Yeah.
there is a such thing as office politics, and it becomes very political, and it's like
Yes.
it just it's just crazy.
There are another set of another set of rules you have to play by.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
unwritten rules. Like there's
Yes.
these gray
Yeah.
areas or rules you don't even know are rules.
Yes.
And then that really becomes playing the game.
Yeah.
And that was very hard for me, is that why do I have to play the game? I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to play the game. I want people to do their job and be recognized for the job and work they do. I give you an example. I had an employee one time. I'm sitting in my office, and he always came and would chat with me on his breaks or whatever, and you know, shoot the shit, so to speak. And then at one point, after doing this a few times, I said, "Hey, let me let you in on something." I said, "I definitely like our conversations. I don't mind it at all. But at the end of the day, the only thing I'm evaluating you for is the work you do out on the floor, not this. This will not matter. Just so you
Mm.
know, you can more than welcome on your breaks to come chat with me if I'm in here, but this will not define the way I'm going to document anything. It all Only thing that matters is what you do as far as your production on the floor, your leadership on the floor, the work you do out there. This does not matter. Just so you're clear."
So let me interrupt here, and I think I see this perfectly from my perspective right now. He's coming in from a different culture than yours. So like you said, you're coming from a military culture where it's very much objective, merit driven culture.
Yeah.
And that's why you sat down like, hey, you're great, but I'm evaluating you on how you do on the floor.
Yeah.
He's probably coming in from a you culture, you
Yes.
know, and he understands maybe there's some politics to this thing. So
Yeah.
he's trying to apply his previous culture to what it is right now, and that obviously does not play well.
No,
You know?
I nipped it in the bud. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
give you the wrong impression, because, and that was again my first exposure to a corporate, space. But then
Hmm.
I did have a leader that really called me out one time on leadership. Now I'm coming out the military saying to myself, I'm an expert on leadership. That's in my mind. I prided myself to be the best I could possibly be. And I would say in my mind, I'm one of the best leaders in the army, period. That's how well I wanted to do. So when
Hmm.
he challenged me and said, "Well, I don't like the way you're doing this and that." He was an older gentleman. And I said, "Well, is something not getting done?" "Well, no." Like, "Well, what's happening that's not?" He said, "Well, I just don't like your style." I said, "It doesn't
Hmm.
matter what you like. Honestly." I said, he said, "I know leadership." I said, "No, you don't. No, you don't." I said, "Because it won't matter the way I lead my people, my department. Everyone's going to be different. What matters are the outcomes. Is something not happening? Is something failing? Is something faltering? Like, tell me, are we not hitting numbers? Like, tell me what's the problem." There was no problem. He just didn't like it. I said, "That's your problem." I told him straight up. I told him it's your problem. I've told leaders before. I said, "The reason why this department is toxic is because of you." I said, "We should be one team, but yet we're individuals in one department." I said, "That's a problem." But this was me fresh out of the military environment. So I was like, "This is terrible."
So was this your first experience with toxic leadership then?
I would say, yeah, I guess I wouldn't
Huh.
say toxic leadership. It's just like, yeah, I guess it's toxic leaders in a toxic environment. I would say so. And it looks like I need to cut on my light here in a minute. But yeah, I would say so, because it just, I was like, this is just not it for me. Like, y'all don't know. And it was really, I guess for me, really a shock that people behave this way. I'm like, you're leaders. Like, do you not know what that means?
So
But
what
guess
are like
what?
some
Whew,
examples that like really drove you nuts about him?
I think those things where, oh, I give you an example, like valuing the voices of like a day shift leaders because they were held because they're exposed versus your night shift.
Ah, that's
So then
true.
when
Very different.
decisions happen, it's
Yes.
all based on what the day shift says, and
Yes.
not the night shift, which a lot of people that work on those shifts know.
Yes.
And for me, I remember challenging him as part of that larger conversation, saying, "Hey, there's no reason why you couldn't have waited until
So
the night
were you on
shift."
a day shift or night
I was on the
shift?
night shift. I was
Okay,
on the
so
night
that's
shift.
very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was on the night
Yeah.
shift, and I said, "There's no reason why you couldn't have waited until we came together, like a shift change, brought everybody
Yeah.
in together, and then talked to make these decisions. But you're
Hmm.
valuing just the that first layer, but that doesn't mean they're right. But just because you see them and they're visible and it's
Yes.
convenient, you
Yeah.
say, well, I'm gonna just talk to you and leave you out. So then we just have to then be told what to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, just pull us all in. And that's when I did say, hey, you're part of the problem. I said, we should
Yeah.
not be individuals within the same department. We should be a
Hmm.
team. But you are creating this. But see,
Mm.
people that don't know, from my perspective at the time, leadership, communication, all this stuff, you don't know how to behave. That's where the office politics takes over.
Mm.
That's where people that are more senior in the office politics space educate you on this is the way you should be. Don't worry about them. But it's like
Yeah.
you're just perpetuating, which then leads to a more, which people may say is a toxic environment, because you're just creating this separation where it shouldn't exist.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. Like toxic leaders and toxic environments are obviously very, very bad for performance and team cohesion. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've definitely been on a staff position, battalion level,
Mhm.
and I was deployed. It was in Iraq. I think back in 2005 or something to that effect. And yeah, definitely had a leader who was not the greatest to get along with. I mean, he's a type person that where like he's a yeller. He
Mm,
would say like, "I don't care what it takes to get it done, just get it done." And right off the bat, when somebody tells you, "I don't care how you do it, get it done," it's like, "Oh man, like you're just like creating a bad environment. You're setting yourself up for failure in the future."
yeah,
But really, and he's not wasn't approachable, because he was like a yeller and because he's always like negative, never had anything positive to say. Nobody took any problems to him, because nobody wants to get yelled at, and so things would fester and like become larger problems down the road, and so then he gets even more angry.
yeah,
Or what you end up doing is like if you're on a team, you just kind of like push the blame on somebody else or something
yeah,
else. Or like that team didn't do their job or whatever. It just creates this bubble of crap, honestly. Not only on the team, but then it starts permeating outward, because now my team that I was on is blaming another team or another person. And now it's like back and forth with these two teams blaming each other.
yeah,
And people just get angry, and they get to the point where I was like, you know what? If something was to happen to this guy, I'd just let him be.
yeah.
And I hate to say it, this was in
Yeah,
Iraq.
yeah, but that's a shame that people push you that point, and then that, like, I see what you said about him saying, "Figure it out," and then you know coming back in the blame thing. So I see people in the civilian world, especially higher up leaders, could be your immediate supervisor,
Mm.
and they will look at you at your title and say, well, go figure it out. And you may ask for a little bit of guidance. Maybe you're new to it.
Right.
Automatically, because of your title, I shouldn't have to tell you that. You need to go figure it out. But I see a lot of deflection from leaders because they don't have an answer. They don't even have a
Ah,
perspective. So it's easy
yes.
to just deflect and say, why? You're a manager. You should be able to figure that out. And then they kind of that talking down to kind of tone. You're a director. You should be able to figure it out. You're a VP. You should be able, whatever it is. You're a supervisor. You should be able to figure it out. But I'm asking for a little guidance. Can we talk this out? Like if I
Yes.
have to tell you that, then I need to find someone else. And it's like, but that's just because they have no clue. So instead of saying, Look, honestly, I don't know. I think you're just going to have to figure this one out. Like, hey, if you want to run something, this would be a better approach. I don't know.
Right.
This is new for me. Why don't you go ahead and see what you could figure out? Let's then reconvene. Let's talk it through. Let's see if these things make sense.
Absolutely. I
That
totally
is the
agree,
better approach. And just say you
Yes.
don't know instead of this. Like, look, if you don't know it, sometimes you're completely new to a role, but they act like
Mm,
you've been there forever. It's like just
it's true.
say,
It's
I
very
don't
true.
know. It's fine. And just saying,
Yeah.
like, let's see what you come up with. But guess what? What happens was that blame game, because if you drop the
Yeah.
ball, it'll just in that corporate environment, that office politics leading into toxicity. Well, they did it. It was their fault. Because then it's
Hmm.
blaming. It's no
Yeah.
team, no leadership to say, hey, we dropped the ball. Nope. Larry dropped the ball. It's his fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to him. And
Yeah.
then it's going to be like, hey, I brought it to you. And you said, figure it out. So this, don't tell me any of that. Look, you messed up. Wait a minute. You
See,
know?
and that's a culture that lacks leader ownership, you know?
Yeah.
That's part of it. Yeah. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree with you. I think there are times where, yeah, I have to go figure it out for my own, and if somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, I don't know, how to do this, whatever. I'm like, okay, what have you done so far? And if he tells me like, I don't even know where to start, I was like, okay, where do you think we should start? Let's talk this out. That's fine. But like, if I ask him a question, it's like, what have you done so far? And he goes, nothing. I'm like, well, okay. Why don't you go like think about what you want to do, come up with a
Yeah.
plan, come back to me. I
Yeah.
get that. But like you said, I think you're right. I think it's kind of deflecting because they don't know, or he didn't know like what he should do.
Mhm.
But the problem with that is like it encourages people to do like illegal, immoral things.
Yeah.
When you kind of tell a person to go out and do it at any cost, like I don't care how it gets done. Yeah, people are going to take the shortcut and like do immoral, illegal, or stupid things.
Yeah.
And then what? Yeah, that's not a good look.
Yeah. And this is where, it's important to have strong leaders in
Mm,
shaping and sustaining a culture. And leadership is key. And then why it matters. Why does culture matter? Let me read this. Culture influences identity,
mm,
belonging,
mm,
performance. One thing that we
mm.
have talked about so many times: trust, communication, and motivation. That's
Yeah,
that's why it matters. And to me, if in a corporate environment, if they don't understand why it matters, why are we doing this? Don't check the box and say, well, we have to define mission and vision and values. We have to define a culture. Yeah, but why does it matter?
yeah,
That is why you're not. And if you could say, so you'll say why performance matters. Well, you that's off the bat because we're numbers driven. We have to be
mm.
profitable for whoever. We have to earn a paycheck. That's a given. Why does communication matter? Why does trust matter? Why should people be motivated? Why should they be even want to work here? Are we creating an environment people want to work here and want to stay here?
True.
Answer the questions. And it's like, and if you like it doesn't matter, then that leads to that core ingredients of having a healthy culture, and having a high performing culture. But if all of these elements are missing and all we care about is performance, what about the rest?
So on that note, as far as high performance culture and really having a good culture, everything you mentioned, honestly, I was just thinking about it. I was like, those are all traits and skills you should have in a healthy relationship. If you think about it, right? You
True.
said
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to have open, honest, and frequent communication. You want to feel like you're not going to be judged if you're going to say something. You want to have trust,
Yeah.
in that relationship. You want to have honesty, and you want to have consistent reactions in a person, So like you go to a person, your loved one, whoever it is, and you kind of know, you anticipate like the reaction they have to the news that you're going to deliver. Good, bad, or
Yeah.
ugly, but at least it's consistent. Whatever.
Yes.
And I think all those things are traits of a healthy relationship, but also traits of like a high performance culture and a positive culture, you know?
Wow.
And I think once you think about it that way, I'm like, oh, okay. So,
That is very insightful, and to
mm,
think of it as a relationship, because
yeah.
even going a step further, just to be, you can be transparent.
Mm,
You hear transparency,
hmm.
vulnerability,
Yeah.
um, all of these things that make with a healthy relationship. So it's almost like, just like you say, culture. Now look at a healthy relationship. And how much can you get them to mirror
Yeah.
and marry up? And where they're missing, it's like, well, how do we close that gap? But
Exactly.
then it also goes back to the leadership and leaders wanting to.
Yeah.
And people want to, but I think that's where it goes back to, you know, where you have existing employees or new
Mm,
employees coming into and seeing, you know, is this for existing employees? Is this moving in the direction I want to be a part of? Do I want to be in a healthy relationship? Or am I
exactly.
used to a toxic environment? I thrive in that. Well, we're moving towards a more healthy. New people come in. Do I feel that I'm coming into a healthy relationship? Or is
Some people
this
don't
more?
have that
No,
and they
no,
don't know how to do it. So,
no,
yeah. So,
no.
yeah.
And if they don't, and it's like, I don't know how to thrive in a healthy environment, or that's not what I'm used to. But this goes back
True.
to
Yeah.
when you start to bring in individuals, how they grew up, the influences on them as individuals. So this goes back to those traditions as you were growing up. So this is where
Mm,
your external personal culture can potentially complement or conflict with a company's culture.
sure.
Because if you coming from a space of drama, gossip, I thrive in that. I love that. Give me the dirt. Let me pull
Yeah.
you to a side, even though I shouldn't be talking to you because you report to me.
Yeah.
Give me the dirt, and I'm gonna tell you the business as well. I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
about your peers because we're friends now. We talk outside of work. We're cool, so I thrive in that, and I'm just gonna
Yeah.
you just add into the stew. It's like, what is this?
See, personal culture is you bring your personal culture with you. And if the company cultures or team culture is not strong or non existent, then you're just going to grow yours. And culture will permeate through a team. So if it's a good culture, then you're a positive influence. If your personal background or personal history or personal culture is negative, then that could permeate too. That creates toxic leaders and that creates positive leaders or good leaders, depending on what they bring in. That's interesting. Okay.
And I think
Oh,
this. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
it just made me thought. I guess that's where they come up with, work wife and work husbands. Because it's a relationship.
Yeah, yeah, but you end up hitting it off with people where you connect.
Yeah.
But even thinking like going back to a broader sense, like how can we get, everyone's married up? We got this big healthy thing going on. And I think when it comes to the leader, depending on their awareness of
Mm,
what would make a healthy culture and what's needed for the organization and for the department, some of them could miss that. And they think about, well, this is what's right for me. I'm listening to you talk as I'm interviewing
got
you,
it.
and I'm saying this is what's right for me, but you're not the one that's going to be engaged with them as much as they would engage with their employees. So is
Mm,
it what's right for you, or is it what's going to be right for the department, for the employees?
that's a good
And
point.
it's like,
Yeah.
and it could be one and the same. It could be
Sure.
what's right for you, and they complement one another.
Hmm.
But then you have to really dig deep and say, am I, does it? Because if you have let's take, for example, you have an arrogant leader.
Hmm.
I'm a boss. I show up to meetings late. I don't care about my employees. Start over, whatever. It's because I said so. Figure it out. If I got to tell you, you're that kind of person. So then you hire someone, you're interviewing candidates to become a leader on your team. Now, are you looking for those same types of that
Yeah.
arrogance, that this and that? Because if your team, the people are not like that, they're happy go lucky, they like to hang out, they're close knit, and then you bring in this person because they're like you.
Mm.
Now they're talking to them. What's going to happen? Turnover. People are going to start
Yes.
leaving, because they're going to be like, what is
Wow.
this person?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that fits with you versus what's
Mm.
best for the and then as you hire, when we talk about those cultural, why it matters, the culture influences the person that you're hiring, the relationship, back to it. Do they help complement performance, trust, communication, all of these things? Like, have you truly? It's like going on a date and you decide you want to dig deep. Tell me about your future. Where do you hope to be? What's your
Yeah.
goals in life? You could dig in. Do you have a bank account? Are you living on your own? How much money do
Mm.
you have to save? When do you hope to retire? People might think that's weird, but it's like if you're going to be in a relationship, you need to know that they're not a bum,
That's very
vice
true.
versa.
Yeah.
And if they are, and it's like, oh, I still live at my mom's house, and I'm 40, and it's like, I don't know if that's right. Hey, you could do your thing, but I don't know if that's
Yeah.
right for me. But in interviewing someone, are you hearing what's right for the
Mm.
culture of the company, the culture of the
Yeah.
department, or where you want it to be? Because when we think about culture influences identity, belonging, performance, trust, communication, motivation, does that then leads to the high performing team?
Mm.
But if you're
True.
not looking for that, how are you ever going to get to the high performing team when office politics dominates, when toxicity dominates? You will never get there. And then, like we discussed previously, and I'll use the same analogy, at the end of the day, the the company is like a team, and I'll use a football team, you know, and everyone has a role to play. So at the C suite, the CEO is the coach. Those first level people are
Head
all
coach.
head coach.
Yep.
Everyone else below them, the first level below them are special teams, football, running back. I mean, quarterback coaches. They're all those specialty coaches, but they're
Mm.
not the coach of the team. The coach has to provide that direction.
Yep.
Now, as you go down one level, those people now, for them, for going up, their special teams, whatever else, coaches. For them, to their teams, they are the coach. So then how are they casting? And each level has a coach because then your hat switches. When I go up, I'm a special teams coach. When I go down, I am the coach.
Yep.
So are your coaches aligned? Because no team operates without a coach ever. They're never successful. Zero. If there's no coach, because at the end of the day, it's going to be like, what is our play?
Mm.
So regardless of your level, senior director, VP, whatever the structure is, you're going to look to the coach and say, what is our play? And that's where the strategy comes into place, the culture, the norms, the KPIs. What is our play? You have to
True.
provide some kind of playbook. And if you cannot do that as a leader, your team will fail. In my mind, you will fail.
Agreed. Yeah. No, 100%. That's that. I don't have anything that's else to add, man. I totally agree, and yeah, I could
So then
totally
it's
see that.
like, so at the end of the day, it's like, what's one change companies should make today to improve their culture? To me, is that, and it's not just companies, it is companies as a whole part, but it's each leader in the company that has to play those dual hats of I go from
Hmm.
a head coach to a special teams coach. And it's always that kind of relationship all the way down until you're just players.
Yeah.
And then it's like everyone playing is playing to win the game, and that playing is your performance, it goes up to say we are hitting our targets, we are winning championships. How are you going to do that? Like everyone, the culture is huge. We want to win
Mm.
championships. How are we going to do that? Championships are those bonuses. Everyone keeps a job, all of these things that they give, those are
Yeah.
championships.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do we, your performance ratings, getting those high
Hmm.
marks? Those are the goals. Those are those little team. Those are the wins over those teams, the
Mhm.
opposition, whatever it is, quarterly, yearly. Ultimately, we hit the end of the year. We hit our targets. Those are our championships. We won.
Yeah, and you could have, kind of going back a little bit, but you could have each specialty team or whatever could have their own little different culture twist, as long as they all complement the larger culture. So there's opportunity there to have individual tailored cultures as well as it complements the larger culture organization. Yeah, well said, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate it. So I think that's our time for today. And as always, like and subscribe only if it moves you. I'm not trying to force anybody to do anything, but if you want to throw us a bone, please do so. But also leave those comments.
Yeah,
Leave the comments. Did we mix the mark? What do you feel? How do you feel about what we said? What has been your experiences with culture? And though we are coming from a military background, this is for everyone. So, what
yeah,
has been your experiences? Where have you had those healthy cultures? The cultures that are not so great. What did you do about it? How did you navigate it? Any and all of the above. Please drop those comments for us so we can hear what you have to say.
cool. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you, T. We catch y'all next time. Take it easy.
Later.